If you spend a majority of your day sitting down, chances are you've lost some mobility in your hips and your spine. And that could present itself like low back pain, hip pain, maybe even knee pain. So if you feel like you fall into this category, then I'm going to give you 2 moves that you're going to do every day for 30 days that's going to help reverse some of this lost mobility so that you can start feeling better in your body again. In this first exercise, we're going to do the 90-90, but we're going to do it in a very intentional way as opposed to just doing 90-90 passive switches. Because while this is good for a warm-up, just moving your body from side to side, this isn't really good for bringing back the mobility in your hips that you've lost from sitting down. So I want you to bring your legs out 90 degrees, and then I want you to bend your knees 90 degrees. And as we go through this, if this feels a little bit hard for you or too tight, you can always lean back and that's going to make it feel a little bit more accessible. Okay, starting out in center, you're going to externally rotate one of your legs and you're going to go as far as you can without starting to carry the other leg with you. And when you've reached your end range, you're going to hold it there and squeeze. Here, squeezing the outside of the glute to feel the stretch on the inside of the capsule here. And you're going to hold it there for 5 breaths. After 5 breaths, when you can't go anymore, then you're going to slowly start to rotate the hips over and come into your 90-90. Now here in this 90-90 position, once you're set up, try to keep the spine nice and straight. If you're getting crampy and pinchy here, you could always lean out to the side, but you're still going to keep your spine straight. Now we're going to get into stretching our glute in the front leg. So with the straight spine, lean forward. And you want to think about rotating the hips forward, and that'll give you a deeper stretch into this front leg. If this feels okay, you can start to get a little bit light on your hands, maybe even take your hands behind your head and use the strength of your front leg pushing down into the ground to hold yourself up and get deeper into the stretch and make this more of a strength activated stretch. Once you're done holding it here for 5 breaths, you're going to come back up. And before we move on, I want you to push this back knee down into the ground and the inside of the foot into the ground. And you'll feel the inside of your hip start to fire up. And you want to hold it here for 5 breaths. Then you're going to turn your chest towards the back leg. And while keeping this knee down onto the ground, you're going to externally rotate as much as you can and go as far as you can without lifting up this knee. You're going to reach a point where either you're going to want to turn your hips or the knee is going to lift. You want to hold it here for 5 breaths and really work on opening up your legs as much as you can. Think about like 8 out of 10 in effort. And after you've held this for 5 breaths, then you're going to slowly rotate and open it out on the other side, doing essentially the same thing that we did on the other side, which is get long in the spine, lean forward. This side is going to be a little bit different. We all have asymmetries in our hips. So maybe this side you lean over a little bit more, or you can stay upright a little bit more. So you're going to go back and forth doing each side a total of 5 times. Now for the second exercise, it is a combination hamstring stretch along with hip flexor stretch and some thoracic rotation. When we're sitting down a lot, we're in this partially engaged state with our hamstrings, right? This is lengthened for your hamstrings. This is engaged or contracted for your hamstrings. And when you're sitting, you're somewhere in between. So when you sit like this for many hours, your hamstring starts to feel overworked. And that's what leads to the stiffness that you feel whenever you're trying to stretch out your hamstrings. And while you're sitting also, your hip flexors are in this partially engaged position, so this tends to feel tight. Now both areas, the hamstring and the hip flexor, can feel tight and weak at the same time, which is probably the case if you're sitting for a long period of time over a long period of time. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to come into a half split position, but we're going to put a bend into the front knee. And you're really going to dig the heel down and pull the heel back. So much so that it's creating a crease in my mat because I'm really pulling that heel back. And what that does is it engages the hamstring. With the hamstring engaged, I'm going to rotate the pelvis forward, coming into this half split. Now what this does is it incorporates a bit of strength into this stretch so that it builds long-term flexibility, because flexibility without strength component, your body doesn't trust that position and your body will lose that range of motion. You're going to hold it here for 5 breaths. Then you're going to bend into the front knee. And before you start stretching the hip flexor, you want to squeeze the legs together for that same idea, adding a bit of strength component into your psoas, and find a posterior tilt in the pelvis, which means that you're tucking the tailbone under. Think about just squeezing the glute on your backside, and you'll feel a deepened stretch here in your hip flexor. You're going to hold it here for 5 breaths, and after 5 breaths, you're going to take the same side hand and take this into a twist, reaching the arm back and breathe for 5 breaths. And you're going to repeat those 3 actions, coming into the half splits isometrically for 5 breaths, coming into this posteriorly tilted lunge position for 5 breaths, and twist for 5 breaths. Just doing these 2 movements is going to undo so much of that stiffness that you feel from being sedentary, whether that's because you have to do it for your job or whatever other reason. These are going to be really helpful. All right, I'll see you on the next one.